President Trump took to Twitter today to unleash another wave of criticism on the investigation into Russian meddling in the 2016 election. In one tweet, he said, quote, "If it was the goal of Russia to create discord, disruption, and chaos within the U.S., then with all of the committee hearings, investigations, and party hatred, they have succeeded beyond their wildest dreams." This comes after special counsel Robert Mueller's indictment of 13 Russians for allegedly working to disrupt the 2016 election in President Trump's favor. Criminal defense attorney Vinu Varghese joins CBSN now to discuss. All right, so Vinu, break it down for us. Why these particular charges? What exactly are these Russians accused of?
Well, they're accused of things from wire fraud. These are charges that could face each of them could face up to 30 years in prison. The important thing to know, though, is that what this shows and the level of detail in this indictment, this piece of paper, and I actually printed it out here, is that it's no longer fake news. What it shows is that in 2016, American politics was doused, saturated with Russian dressing. So the president can't say that this is no longer fake news, and that's why he's reacting the way that he is. He's trying to put a different spin on it. He's been saying for years it was hoax, fake news. Now he can't do that. The level of detail is amazing here. Some of the things that are mentioned in the indictment, they use these bots and trolls. I thought I was talking about Lord of the Rings here, but instead you're talking about people that in Russia from St. Petersburg, they had a budget of nearly $1.5 million to put out things that said some things like Hillary Clinton doesn't deserve the black vote. Donald wants to defeat terrorism. Hillary wants to sponsor it. Hillary Clinton supports Sharia law. Hillary is a Satan, and her crimes and lies had just proved how evil she is. The detail here is intricate, it's strong, and it doesn't spell well for these individuals.
It would seem to suggest a very sophisticated knowledge of American politics as well. Well, the 13 Russians indicted will have to be extradited to face these charges. What's the reality here, Vinu? How likely is that to happen? And if it's not likely, why bother charging them?
It's going to be very difficult. Well, they're not going to be able to be extradited from Russia. Russia will not extradite them. But here's what happens. They won't be able to leave Russia. They're going to be basically prisoners in their own country. Because as soon as they step out, and a lot of these people, particularly Prigozhin, the main guy, has business ties all over the world. As soon as he goes somewhere, he can't go to England, he can't go to different countries because he's going to get picked up by Interpol and then be brought back to Russia. That's sort of why Julian Assange is hanging out in the Ecuadorian embassy, because he can't go anywhere. As soon as he steps out, he's come to the United States, assuming there's an indictment against him.
So what does this tell us about the possible direction that the Mueller investigation is taking?
Well, I think it's getting closer and closer to the Trump campaign, right? You know about meetings that happened between Jared Kushner and Paul Manafort and a Russian lawyer. While the indictment doesn't say Americans were directly involved, there is actually indication here of American involvement, that they organized rallies. So ultimately, this is going to come back to the Trump campaign. It's just a matter of time. As
you know, President Trump, though, says that these indictments actually vindicate him. Do they?
Not at all. I think what you have here is an illegitimate president. I mean, you have a president that was supported by a foreign nation. He's been knocking and criticizing American intelligence. So it begs the question, if he's a legitimate president, why is he criticizing American intelligence? He may have said something like, listen, we won fair and square, but to constantly do what he's done over the course of his time as president begs other questions about whether what his role was in all of this.
To be clear, though, there's not a conclusion that is reached as a result of these indictments on whether or not this, in fact, impacted the outcome. That much we do know. It's not a conclusion yet that's been reached.
Correct. But there were rallies organized. Particularly, Prince had a song, Purple Rain, said, "I never meant to cause you any sorrow. I never meant to cause you any pain." But these Russians caused a lot of sorrow and pain for Hillary Clinton, particularly because they targeted purple states, states that didn't go necessarily red or blue, and particularly Florida. They organized a number of rallies in Florida that were anti-Hillary, pro-Trump rallies, and he won that state.
Well, the indictments allege the Russians also championed Bernie Sanders during his run. And Senator Sanders was asked about this on one of the Sunday talk shows. He says that nobody from his campaign has been contacted by Bob Mueller's team. So what does that suggest to you?
suggests to me that they're not interested. So there's nothing, I don't think that they see a link in any way towards Bernie Sanders or trying to support Bernie Sanders. I think it really is what these individuals, they were out there to support Donald Trump, and that's the firm conclusion of Special Counsel Mueller.
So the indictments also mention an unnamed American from Florida. What's the significance of that?
Well, they use it mentions in the indictment that they use an actual American to actually put signs out, particularly in one of the areas that he said is that Hillary Clinton supported Sharia law, that they actually had an American doing that. So I'm sure they already have this person on their radar. For all we know, he already may be cooperating with the investigation.
All right, a lot of unanswered questions still. Vanu Varghese, thank you so much, Vanu, for your insight.
Thank you.